Hey guys, it's Emily, and this is my Teach Me project number 3. Today, I'm going to be talking about the female reproductive system. So, let's get started. Let's start off with the main functions of the female reproductive system. The three main functions are maturation of an oocyte, gestation, otherwise known as pregnancy, and of course, childbirth. First, I'm going to talk about the internal structures and their functions in the female reproductive system. First, highlighted in purple, we have the ovary. The ovary is that white ball-looking structure. Of course, I have it pointed and highlighted in purple. The function of the ovary is it produces and matures oocytes and produces hormones. Next, I don't have it highlighted in the photo, but it is that finger-like looking structure that's right next to the ovary. It is not physically attached to the ovary, but you can see in this photo that it's next to it. The function of the fimbriae is that it captures and guides the oocyte from the ovary to the fallopian tube. Next, we have the fallopian tube. So I have that highlighted in blue, and it's pointing at the structure that's connected to the fimbriae. It's the tube-like structure that connects to the uterus. The function of the fallopian tube is to transport an egg from the ovary all the way to the uterus for a possibility of implantation. Next, we have the vagina that is highlighted in pink over at the bottom of the photo. The purpose and function of the vagina is for menstruation, childbirth, and sexual intercourse. Next, we have the uterus. I didn't highlight it, but it's right there in the center, so that main body portion um, of this photo is the uterus. The function of the uterus is that it plays a role in menstruation, and it also nourishes a growing fetus. So that's where your baby is. Lastly, we have the cervix. So I have that highlighted in green. The cervix function is that it protects the uterus, and it's also a passageway for sperm and menstrual blood. Now, let's talk about the uterus for just a moment. Let's go over the regions of the uterus first. So we have the fundus, the body, and the cervix. In the photo on the left-hand side, it shows the fundus highlighted in green. So the fundus is the top portion of the uterus. And then we have the body highlighted in yellow, which is the middle portion of the uterus. And then on the bottom, we have the cervix, which is highlighted in blue. So that is the bottom portion of the uterus. Now let's talk about the layers of the uterus, so the tissues. So there's 3 different layers of the uterus. There is the perimetrium, the myometrium, and the endometrium. Let's talk outer layer to the inner layer. So we'll start from the perimetrium, which is the outermost layer of the uterus. And then we go to the myometrium, which is the middle layer. The way I remembered myometrium was because middle and myometrium both start with M. So myometrium is the middle. So in this photo, you'll see that the arrow was pointing to that thick middle layer. This thick middle layer is the myometrium. It's made of smooth muscle, and that's where the contractions occur when it comes to childbirth or menstruation, when it's shedding the endometrium layer. And so, with that being said, we'll discuss the endometrium, which is the innermost layer. The endometrium is made up of 2 layers. It's the stratum basale and the stratum functionale. The stratum basale just nourishes the stratum functionale with nutrients. The stratum functionale is an important layer in the endometrium. The stratum functionale is the layer that actually sheds during menstruation once a month. So Those are the three layers of the uterus. Now let's talk ligaments of the uterus and their functions. First, I'll discuss the round ligament. So the round ligament, I have it highlighted here in orange. It's a round tube-like thing coming out of the uterus. The function of the round ligament is to support and maintain the position of the uterus. Next, we have the broad ligament. In this photo, it shows that it's in three different areas. We didn't have to learn that for our lab practical, so I won't be going over them. But the broad ligament's function is to support and stabilize the organs of the female reproductive system. So the broad ligament is basically, when I look at this photo, it kind of reminds me of like a butterfly wing. And so then I know the broad ligament is that entire like yellowish structure in the background that actually looks like a wing. So that's how I kind of remember the broad ligament. Lastly, I have the ovarian ligament. The ovarian ligament's function is to stabilize the position of the ovaries. So the ovarian ligament is highlighted in yellow, green, I'm sorry. And if you follow that arrow all the way up to the structure, it's a structure that's connected between the uterus and the ovary. So it's easy to remember because it's connected to the ovary, so you know that's the ovarian ligament. Next, let's talk external female genitalia. So first in this photo, we have the vulva. The vulva is basically the entire external structure. So it includes all of the external genitalia on the female. So that's what you'll call the vulva. And the vulva is usually what has the hair on it. Next, we have the clitoris. So if you look up at the topmost part of the vulva in the pink area, that you'll find the clitoris. Then we have the labia minora, and for singular, it's labia minus. Those are quote unquote the inner lips. So they're on the inside. You can see where it's pointing to the pink part of the photo. And then we have the labia majora or labium majus for singular. The labia majora are on the outside of the vulva, so quote unquote outer lips, as you can see in this photo. It's pointed to the skin tone color on the outside. So those are the labia majora. Then we have the external urethral orifice. I think that's how you say it. That's a fancy way to say urethral opening. So yeah, if you look at the photo and you follow the line, that's where the urine comes out of, that little area. Then we have the external vaginal orifice. Again, fancy way to say vaginal opening. So if you follow the line to that dark reddish circle area, that's the opening to the vagina. Then we have the vestibule. In this photo, it doesn't actually show or point out where the vestibule is, but the best way I could describe it is the area basically from one inner lip to the other inner lip. So that little just section, if that makes sense. Next, let's talk about the muscles of the pelvic floor and their actions. First, we'll talk about the bulbospongius muscle. So I have this kind of outlined in green. My outlines might be kind of hard to tell the color. I know I was kind of getting confused too. But I have it outlined in green. It's basically in the vulva area. The bulbospongius muscle, the action is it constricts the urethra. Next, we have the levator ani. That's right at the bottom, if you look where the anus is, you'll see like a red line on that muscle. That's the levator ani. The action is to support the pelvic organs and it controls defecation. Next, we have the external anal sphincter highlighted in yellow around the anus. This keeps the anal canal closed. Next, we have the urogenital diaphragm. So this is lined in like a light blue. It's not as dark as my writing is on the PowerPoint, but it's highlighted in light blue and it supports the pelvic organs and controls urination. Lastly, we have the central tendon of the perineum. That's really, really light color purple in between the bulbosponges muscle and the external anal sphincter. It's circled in purple, and it's the tendon. In this photo, I just kind of have an overview of an ovary. It was a good photo to help you show the different follicles and kind of see the growth in them when the follicular cells um, grow and then, or the oocyte grows and the more follicular cells are attached to the follicles. So you can see here a primordial follicle, the very, very beginning, and then a primary follicle where it has more follicular cells, the secondary follicle where there's even more follicular cells, and the oocyte grows a little bit more and matures. Then we have the antral follicle. In here it says the early tertiary follicle, but I know it as the antral follicle because it contains the antrum, and you can see the antrum in there. And then we have a Graafian follicle all the way on the left-hand side with the antrum fully filled with antral fluid, pretty much ready for ovulation. And lastly, we'll go over the histology of an ovary. In the first picture here, on the top, I have a photo of the medulla and the cortex. So the cortex is the outer portion of the ovary and it contains ovarian follicles in there. So that's where you'll find the primary follicle, secondary follicle, so on and so forth. Then we have the medulla, which is kind of in this reddish color, and that contains the neurovascular structures. So next, number 2, we have the primordial and primary follicles. We have the histology in the photo all the way on the left-hand side. The blue arrow is a primordial follicle. So you'll notice that there's not many follicular cells. It's a very immature oocyte. And then with the red arrow, that's a primary follicle. You'll notice that there's more follicular cells and the oocyte has matured slightly. This is when the beginning of the maturation of an oocyte. Number 3, the picture in the middle, the light pinkish one, that's a secondary follicle. So you'll see here the oocyte is matured even more, it's grown even more. There's so many more follicular cells surrounding that oocyte. And at this point, it's started releasing estrogen and progesterone. And number 4, lastly, the antral and Graafian follicles. So with the blue arrow, that's an antral follicle. You'll notice that there's more follicular cells. The oocyte has grown significantly and matured. And we now have this space, that white space here, that's a fluid-filled cavity. It's the antral. The antrum, it's filled with antral fluid. And then with the red arrow, it's significantly larger. So that antrum grew a lot, filled up with a lot of antral fluid. The oocyte is matured and it's now fully ready for ovulation. All right, guys, well, that wraps up my Teach Me project number 3 on the female reproductive system. Good job on making it this far, guys, and finishing up the semester. See you later.